The heart monitor went silent. One long, terrible note that meant everything had stopped. Dr. Marcus Holloway stood frozen at the foot of the bed, staring at the flat line like it might change if he looked hard enough. Behind him, two residents exchanged glances. Someone whispered into a phone. And in the back corner of the trauma bay, near the supply cart nobody ever organized properly, a woman in scrubs that didn't quite fit stepped forward. "You missed it," she said. Not loud, not dramatic, just flat statement of fact. Everyone turned. Holloway's face went red. "Excuse me?" "The bleed," she said. "You missed it." Nobody knew her name. Nobody cared to. She was just the contract nurse who showed up 3 weeks ago, kept her head down, restocked gurneys, and never said a word during rounds. The one with the Army Beijing nobody asked about. Now she was calling out the head of trauma surgery at Coldstone Regional Medical Center in front of his entire team, in the middle of a code, on a patient who was already gone. Holloway's jaw tightened. "Security? Left subclavian," she interrupted, eyes still on the monitor. "Check it." If you want to know how a ghost becomes the only person in the room who matters, if you want to see what happens when the system bends so hard it almost breaks, stay with me. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. And watch what happens when the people who think they know everything realize they've been wrong the entire time. 3 weeks earlier, the hiring manager at Coldstone Regional barely looked up from her tablet. Army nurse, combat medic, then RN, 6 years active duty. Erin Sadler kept her answers short, clean. She'd learned that worked better than trying to explain. The manager scrolled. "Says here you left in 2019. What have you been doing since?" "Working. VA hospitals, mostly. Some contract gigs." The tablet went down. "We need someone for nights, restocking, patient transport, basic floor support. It's not trauma." Erin nodded. She knew what not trauma meant. It meant they saw the gap in her resume and filled it in with their own story. Burnout, couldn't hack it, ran away from the real work. "That's fine," she said. "You'll be working under Dr. Holloway. He runs a tight ship. Very academic, cutting-edge protocols." The manager smiled in that way people do when they're selling you something you didn't ask for. "You'll learn a lot." Erin didn't mention that she'd kept more people alive in the back of a Humvee with a headlamp and a field kit than most residents would see in a year. Didn't mention the shrapnel scars on her left arm, or the way she still woke up sometimes thinking she smelled burn pits. "Sounds good," she said. She got the job. Coldstone Regional sat on the edge of Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, close enough to the oil fields that half the ER cases were industrial accidents, far enough from Anchorage that serious trauma meant a helicopter ride south. It was a strange place. Modern building, updated equipment, but understaffed in that way that made everyone perpetually tired and defensive. Erin's first shift started at 2300. The night nurse supervisor, a woman named Gail with a smoker's rasp and zero patience, walked her through the supply closets and showed her the equipment logs. "You don't touch the crash carts unless a doctor tells you to. You don't start lines. You don't make calls. You restock. You move patients. You keep your head down." Gail lit a cigarette the second they stepped outside for orientation part 2. "Holloway doesn't like people who freelance." "Got it. I'm serious. He had the last Army guy fired for questioning a medication order. Doesn't matter if you were right. Doesn't matter if you saved someone's life in Kandahar or whatever. This isn't a war zone. We have protocols." Erin nodded. Gail softened slightly. "Look, you seem solid. Just stay in your lane and you'll be fine." The first 2 weeks were exactly what Erin expected. She restocked gurneys. She transported patients between floors. She logged inventory and refilled blanket warmers, and kept her mouth shut when she watched a third-year resident miss an obvious pneumothorax because he was too busy checking his phone. Nobody talked to her. A few people nodded in passing. One older nurse, a guy named Tim, asked if she'd been deployed. She said yes. He said his son was Marines. That was the whole conversation. Dr. Holloway was everywhere and nowhere. He'd appear suddenly during rounds, fire off questions to the residents, correct their answers with the kind of smile that wasn't really a smile, then vanish into his office. He wore expensive scrubs. Tailored. His shoes were always spotless. Erin saw him once in the break room reading a journal article on his phone. She poured coffee. He didn't look up. "You're the new logistics nurse," he said. "Yes." "Army?" "Yes." "Interesting." He sipped his own coffee, still scrolling. "We don't see a lot of military medical here. Different world, I imagine." "Sometimes." "Well, I'm sure you'll find civilian standards much more rigorous, structured, evidence-based." He smiled. "It's an adjustment, but you'll adapt." He left before she could respond. That night, Tim caught her in the hallway. "Don't take it personal. He's like that with everyone who didn't go to Johns Hopkins." "He go to Johns Hopkins?" "Cornell, but he interviewed there." Erin almost laughed. The incident that changed everything started small. A cold morning in early March. Erin was finishing a night shift, logging the last of the medication restocks, when the radio on Gail's desk crackled. "Coldstone Regional, this is MedFlight 7. We're inbound with priority trauma. ETA 12 minutes. Gail grabbed the handset. "Copy that. What have we got?" "Male, late 50s, multiple penetrating trauma to chest and abdomen. Partial collapse left lung. GCS fluctuating. BP dropping. We're pushing fluids, but he's not stabilizing." Holloway appeared in the doorway like he'd materialized. "Trauma 1 prepped?" "Yes," Gail said. "Good. Get the team up. I want anesthesia and cardiothoracic on standby." He glanced at Erin. "You, go make sure we have adequate blood products staged." Erin went. The helicopter landed 8 minutes later. Erin watched from the supply room window as they wheeled the gurney in. Fast, controlled chaos. The patient was gray. Chest wrapped in blood-soaked field dressings. IV lines tangled. Monitors beeping in ugly rhythms. She caught a glimpse of his face. Older. Hard features. The kind of weathered look that came from decades of sun and wind and not enough sleep. Then the trauma bay doors swung shut and she was outside again. Holloway's voice carried through the walls. "Okay, let's get a full picture. CBC, type and cross, portable chest x-ray. Get me pressure readings every 2 minutes." Erin went back to her work, logged the blood products, checked the crash cart even though she wasn't supposed to. Old habits. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. She was restocking gauze when the shouting started. "He's dropping again! Push another liter! We're already—" "I don't care, push it!" Erin's hand stopped moving. She knew that tone. Panic dressed up as authority. "X-ray's clear," someone said. "No obvious—" "Then we're missing something. Ultrasound. Fast scan. Move." More noise. Equipment rolling. Voices layered over each other. Erin set the gauze down. Walked to the trauma bay. Stood just outside the door where she could see through the window. Holloway was at the head of the bed, hands moving fast, eyes locked on the monitors. 2 residents flanked him. A nurse, someone Erin didn't know, was managing the IV pumps. Another was documenting. The patient's pressure was 70/40, dropping. "Where's the blood loss?" Holloway demanded. "Chest tube output is minimal," one resident said. "Abdomen?" "Fast scan's negative." "Then why is he—" Holloway stopped, stared at the monitor. "This doesn't make sense." Erin's eyes moved over the patient. The dressings, the positioning, the way his left shoulder sat slightly higher than his right. She saw it. Small. Almost invisible unless you knew what you were looking for. A dark spot under the clavicle. Not blood seeping out. Blood pooling in. Subclavian bleed, tamponating. Every time they pushed fluids, they increased the pressure. Every compression made it worse. She looked at Holloway. He was focused on the chest wounds, the visible damage, the loud, obvious trauma. Nobody was checking the quiet kill. "We need to crack him," Holloway said. "If we can't find it, we go in." "His pressure won't hold through intubation," the anesthesiologist said. "Then we don't have a choice." Erin's hand was on the door before she thought about it. Gail caught her arm. "Don't. They're missing it. It's not your call. He's dying. And you're a logistics nurse." Gail's grip tightened. "You go in there. You're done. Holloway will bury you." Erin looked back through the window. The monitor numbers kept falling. 70/35, 60/30. Holloway was calling for the thoracotomy kit. She pulled her arm free. The door swung open. Every head turned. Out, Holloway snapped. Aaron stepped closer. You're treating the wrong injury. Excuse me? The chest wounds aren't killing him. There's a subclavian bleed, left side, under the clavicle. It's small, but it's arterial. Holloway stared at her like she'd just spoken in another language. We've already cleared the chest. You cleared the obvious trauma. You didn't check for deep bleeds. I don't know who you think you are. I'm the person who's seen this exact injury kill 3 soldiers in Helmand Province. Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. Check under his shoulder. You'll find shrapnel tamponating the artery. Every time you compress his chest, you're pumping blood into the cavity. Silence. Hard and brittle. One of the residents shifted. Dr. Holloway, it's possible. Be quiet. Holloway's eyes stayed locked on Aaron. You're out of line. You're out of your depth. And you're out of this room. Now. The monitor alarm shrieked. 50/28. He's crashing, someone yelled. Holloway spun back to the patient. Epi. Push Epi. Get me that thoracotomy kit now. Aaron didn't move. The alarms kept screaming. Hands moved fast. Voices overlapped. And the numbers kept dropping. 45/25. 40/20. Aaron watched Holloway's face, saw the exact moment he realized he was losing. Pressure's gone, the nurse said quietly. 35/18. Holloway grabbed the scalpel. I'm going in. Wait, the anesthesiologist said. If you open him and there's no injury there has to be. 30/15. Aaron stepped forward, put her hand on Holloway's wrist. Not hard, just enough. Check first, she said. He yanked his arm back. Security! Nobody moved. 28/12. Check, Aaron repeated. Holloway's jaw worked. His hand shook slightly. Then he looked at the nearest resident. Ultrasound, left subclavian space. Do it. The resident moved fast, probe out, gel on, screen angled. 5 seconds. There, the resident breathed. There's a fluid collection, and he adjusted the probe. Metallic density, foreign body. Holloway went still. It's against the artery, the resident continued. Oh God, it's occluding flow. Every chest compression is... Stop compressions. Holloway's voice came out flat, mechanical. Prep for vascular exposure. We need to get that fragment out without losing the vessel. Instruments moved, hands shifted. Aaron stepped back. Holloway didn't look at her. Nobody did. They worked in silence. Fast, precise, no wasted movement. The fragment came out, small, jagged, coated in blood. The artery was clamped, repaired, released. Pressure rising, someone said. 60/40. 70/45. 80/50. The monitor alarm stopped. Holloway stood frozen, holding the fragment in a pair of forceps, staring at it like it had appeared out of nowhere. Stabilize him and get him to ICU, he said finally. I want hourly neurochecks and a full vascular workup. The team moved, efficient, controlled. The patient was wheeled out. The room emptied. Aaron turned to leave. Wait. Holloway's voice, quiet now, almost unrecognizable. She stopped. He set the forceps down, didn't look at her. How did you know? I've seen it before. Where? Helmand, Kandahar, Mosul. Anywhere people get hit with debris and keep moving long enough to bleed out slow. Silence. Why didn't you say something sooner? Aaron met his eyes. You made it pretty clear I wasn't supposed to. He flinched, actually flinched. That man, he said slowly. Do you know who he is? No. General Augustine Cade, Joint Chiefs. He was on a classified op near the border. Helicopter went down. Holloway's voice dropped. If he had died here, in my trauma bay, the entire command structure would have come down on this hospital. Aaron said nothing. Holloway looked at her for a long moment. Then he walked out. Gail was waiting in the hallway. You just committed career suicide. Maybe. Holloway's gonna bury you, you know that, right? Aaron shrugged. General's alive. That's not how this works. But it was. 2 hours later, Aaron was in the locker room changing out of her scrubs when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Ms. Sadler. A man's voice, clipped, Official. Yes. This is Colonel Warren Briggs, United States Army Medical Command. I'm calling regarding the treatment of General Cade at your facility. Aaron's stomach dropped. Okay. We've received a full report from Dr. Holloway. He indicated that you identified a critical injury the surgical team initially missed. Yes. Can you walk me through what you observed? She did. Step by step. No embellishment. Silence on the other end. Ms. Sadler, I'm looking at your service record right now. 2 deployments. Field trauma specialist. 16 documented saves under fire. Honorable discharge. Yes, sir. Why the hell are you working logistics? She almost laughed. It was the job they offered. More silence. Stay by your phone, Briggs said. Someone's going to want to talk to you. He hung up. Aaron sat down on the bench, stared at her phone. Gail appeared in the doorway. You okay? I don't know. Holloway's in his office, door closed. Nobody's seen him in an hour. Good. Gail sat down next to her. You really saw that injury in combat? 3 times. 4th, if you count today. And they all lived? 2 did. Gail nodded slowly. You know what the worst part is? Everyone in that room has more degrees than you, more certifications, more letters after their names, and not one of them saw what you saw. Different training. No, different experience. Gail stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be weird. She was right. By morning, the entire hospital knew. Aaron walked in for her shift and felt the stares. Whispers followed her down the hallway. Someone had leaked the story. Logistics nurse saves general, trauma team misses critical bleed, and it spread like wildfire. Tim caught her near the supply room. You're famous. I'm tired. No, seriously, people are talking. Holloway's getting calls. Administration's in lockdown mode. Great. Also, there's a guy in a uniform waiting for you in conference room B. Aaron's chest tightened. What kind of uniform? The kind with a lot of bars. She found him standing by the window, hands behind his back, staring out at the snow. Tall, graying hair, uniform perfectly pressed. He turned when she entered. Ms. Sadler, Colonel Briggs, we spoke on the phone. Yes, sir. Please, sit. She sat. Briggs stayed standing. General Cade is awake. Stable. The vascular repair held. He's going to make a full recovery. That's good? He asked about you. Wanted to know who caught what his own doctors missed. Briggs smiled slightly. I told him. He wasn't surprised. Aaron waited. I also pulled the incident report from Dr. Holloway. Very thorough, very detailed, and very clear about one thing. You saved that man's life. The team saved him after you told them where to look. Briggs sat down across from her. I've been doing this a long time, Ms. Sadler. I know what good trauma response looks like. And I know what happens when ego gets in the way of medicine. What I saw in that report was a textbook example of the latter. Sir, let me finish. His voice stayed calm. Even. You identified an arterial bleed that multiple board-certified surgeons missed. You did it without imaging, without labs, just clinical observation and experience. That's not luck. That's skill. Aaron said nothing. So here's what's going to happen. I'm recommending a full review of this facility's trauma protocols, specifically how they integrate military medical expertise. And I'm going to make sure your service record gets in front of the people who matter. I'm not looking for recognition. I know, but the Army is looking for people like you, and so is this hospital, whether they realize it or not. He stood, extended his hand. She shook it. Thank you, Ms. Sadler, for your service and for doing the hard thing when it mattered. He left. Aaron sat in the empty conference room for a long time. When she finally walked out, Holloway was standing in the hallway. They looked at each other. I submitted my report to the colonel, he said quietly. I told him exactly what happened. No spin, no excuses. Okay. I also told him that I ignored your input because I didn't respect your credentials, and that my arrogance nearly killed a patient. Aaron blinked. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Holloway continued. I'm telling you I was wrong, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. He walked away before she could respond. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Aaron went through the motions, restocking, transporting, logging inventory, but her mind was somewhere else. At 600, her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Miss Sadler, this is General Augustine Cade. Her heart stopped. Sir, I'm told you're the reason I'm still breathing. The surgical team did what you told them to do. Don't deflect. His voice was rough, tired, but steady. I've read your file. I know what you did overseas, and I know what you did here. So I'm going to say this once. Thank you. You're welcome, sir. I'm also going to make some calls. People who should have known better are going to hear from me. People who should have treated you better are going to answer for it. That's not necessary. It absolutely is. A pause. You were a combat medic. You know how this works. The mission doesn't end when the shooting stops. It ends when everyone gets home. You got me home. I don't forget that. He hung up. Erin stood in the empty hallway, phone still pressed to her ear, and felt something shift. Not victory, not vindication. Just the quiet, steady weight of being seen. The next 72 hours were chaos. Calls came in from Army Medical Command, hospital administration, and 3 different news outlets that somehow got her number. Gail fielded most of them. Tim ran interference when reporters showed up at the hospital. Holloway kept his distance, but his residents didn't. One by one, they found her, asked questions, wanted to know about field trauma, about decision-making under pressure, about the things you couldn't learn from textbooks. She answered, kept it simple, kept it real. On the 4th day, she was called into the hospital administrator's office. Dr. Vanessa Chen, no relation to anyone, sharp suit, sharper eyes, sat behind a massive desk. Ms. Sadler, thank you for coming. Sure, I'll be direct. The review board has completed their preliminary assessment of the Cade incident. Their findings are illuminating. Erin waited. It's become clear that our trauma protocols have significant gaps, particularly in how we assess and integrate non-traditional medical experience. Chen folded her hands. We're implementing changes, mandatory cross-training with military medical standards, revised triage procedures, and a formal consultation pathway for nursing staff with specialized backgrounds. That's good. We'd also like to offer you a different position, trauma liaison. You'd work directly with the surgical team, provide clinical input on complex cases, and help develop our new protocols. Erin stared at her. I'm a logistics nurse. You're a combat veteran with trauma expertise we desperately need. Chen leaned forward. We made a mistake, Ms. Sadler. We saw your resume and made assumptions. We're trying to correct that. What about Holloway? Dr. Holloway has submitted a formal request for you to join his team. He was quite insistent. Erin almost laughed. Take some time, Chen said. Think about it, but we'd like your answer by end of week. Erin walked out of the office in a daze. Tim found her in the break room. So? They offered me a job. The job you should have had from the start? Something like that. You gonna take it? She poured coffee, stared at the steam rising. I don't know, she said, but deep down, she did. That night, she stood outside Trauma 1. Empty now. Lights low. Equipment neatly staged for the next emergency. She thought about the general, about the fragment, about the moment she'd seen what nobody else had seen. Not because she was smarter, not because she was better, because she'd been there before. In the dust and the blood and the impossible choices. And she'd learned to look for the thing that would kill you quiet while everything else screamed loud. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She smiled. Answered. Ms. Sadler, this is Lieutenant General Barbara Frost, Army Medical Command. I understand you've had an interesting week. You could say that? General Cade speaks very highly of you, as does Colonel Briggs. I'm calling because we have a proposition. Erin's pulse quickened. We're expanding our civilian liaison program, partnering with hospitals near military installations to improve trauma response integration. We need someone who understands both worlds, someone who's lived it. What exactly are you offering? A chance to make sure what happened to General Cade, the good part and the bad part, becomes a teaching case instead of a tragedy. You'd work with facilities across the region, train staff, review protocols. Be the bridge we should have built years ago. Erin looked through the window at Trauma 1. Can I think about it? Of course. But Ms. Sadler, whatever you choose, know this. You've already changed things here. The question is whether you want to change them everywhere else, too. The line went dead. Erin stood in the dim hallway, surrounded by the hum of machines and the distant sound of monitors, and realized something. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't dismissed. She wasn't just the logistics nurse who kept her head down and her mouth shut. She was the woman who saw what others missed. And the system, the whole broken, beautiful, infuriating system, was finally listening. Somewhere in the ICU, General Augustine Cade was sleeping. Heart steady, pressure stable, alive because someone refused to stay quiet when it mattered. And in the morning, Erin Sadler would decide what came next. But tonight, she just stood there, watching the empty trauma bay, remembering the sound of the alarm, and the single steady voice that had cut through all the noise. You're missing it. She took the job. Not the hospital's offer, the Army's. Lieutenant General Frost didn't waste time. Within 48 hours, Erin had orders, a new title, Civilian Trauma Integration Specialist, and a schedule that made her old deployment rotations look relaxed. First stop, Fort Denali Medical Center, 200 miles south. Then Fairbanks. Then a string of smaller facilities that served both military and civilian populations across Alaska's frozen interior. Holloway heard the news before she could tell him herself. He caught her in the parking lot on her last day at Coldstone, wind cutting between the cars, snow starting to fall. So you're leaving? Erin zipped her jacket. Yeah. Can't say I blame you. He shifted his weight, hands shoved deep in his coat pockets. For what it's worth, I meant what I said about being wrong. I know. The residents are already asking when you're coming back to do a lecture. She smiled despite herself. Tell them to call Frost. She's scheduling me out 6 months. Holloway nodded. Looked like he wanted to say more. Didn't. Take care of them, Erin said. The ones who don't fit the mold. The ones with weird backgrounds. They see things you don't. I will. She got in her truck, drove away without looking back. Fort Denali was bigger than Coldstone. Military through and through, armed guards at the gate, helicopters on the pad, that particular smell of diesel and disinfectant that every Army hospital had. Erin reported to the chief of surgery, a colonel named Vega, who had the kind of handshake that could crack walnuts. Heard about the Cade save, Vega said, gesturing to a chair. Hell of a catch. Thanks. Frost says you're here to shake things up. Make sure we're not missing what the civilian side misses. She leaned back. I'll be honest. Some of my people are going to resist. They think military medicine is already the gold standard. It is. For military injuries. Exactly, Vega smiled. So show them what they don't know. You've got 3 weeks here. Make them count. Erin did. She embedded with the trauma team, watched their responses, asked questions that made people uncomfortable. During a mass casualty drill, she stopped the entire exercise when she saw them triaging a simulated patient with crush injuries, treating the visible damage, missing the compartment syndrome building in his legs. Stop, she called out. The team froze. What's his pressure? She asked the resident running the case. 90/60, stable enough. Check his lower leg, left side. The resident looked confused but complied, pressed on the calf. The dummy was rigged with sensors that mimicked real tissue response. It's firm, tight. That's compartment syndrome. You've got maybe 2 hours before he loses the leg. What are you going to do? The resident stared. I was focused on the chest trauma. I know. Everyone does. Erin stepped closer. In the field, we see this all the time. Boulder falls on someone, building collapses, vehicle pins a limb. The crush looks manageable, but the swelling's happening where you can't see it, cuts off blood flow, kills tissue. By the time they're screaming, it's too late. The team listened. Really listened. Word spread fast. The nurse who saved General Cade was at Denali, and she wasn't pulling punches. Attendings started sitting in on her sessions. Nurses asked for one-on-one consults. Even Vega showed up to a midnight training she ran on field improvisation. How to manage a tension pneumothorax with a ballpoint pen when you didn't have a chest tube. You're making my people nervous, Vega said afterward, watching Erin pack up her demo supplies. Good. No, I mean it. They're questioning themselves, second-guessing. Erin looked up. Is that bad? Vega considered. Depends on whether it makes them better or just scared. Then make sure it's the first one. 3 weeks became 4. Frost called personally to extend her stay. Vega won't shut up about you. Says you've changed the culture there. I just showed them what they weren't seeing. That's exactly what we need. How soon can you get to Fairbanks? Erin packed her bags that night. Fairbanks was different. Smaller. More isolated. The hospital served a mix of active duty, veterans, and civilians from the surrounding towns, a patchwork population that meant anything could walk through the door. The medical director, a wiry man named Dr. Patel with permanent coffee stains on his lab coat, greeted her in the lobby. You're the miracle worker. I'm the person who's seen a lot of bad outcomes. Patel laughed. I like you already. Come on, I'll show you where the bodies are buried. Metaphorically, he meant. But Fairbanks had its share of close calls. Understaffed. Overworked. Equipment that was functional but outdated. The kind of place where people made do because they didn't have another choice. Erin spent the first week just observing, watched how they handled traumas, noted the gaps, the assumptions, the moments where protocol overrode instinct. On day 8, a logging accident came in. Chainsaw injury. Massive laceration to the thigh. The trauma team moved fast, stopped the bleeding, started fluids, prepped for surgery. Erin watched from the corner, saw the patient's foot, pale, too pale. Check his distal pulse, she said. The attending, young, confident, already gloved up, glanced over. We've got the bleeder controlled. Check it anyway. He sighed. Humor her. Pressed 2 fingers to the ankle. Stopped. I'm not getting anything. Erin stepped closer. You nicked the femoral artery when you clamped the bleeder. It's spasming. He's going to lose the leg if you don't revise it now. The attending's face went white. He looked at Patel. Patel nodded. Do it. They revised the clamp, found the spasm, fixed it. The pulse came back. The patient kept his leg. Afterward, the attending found Erin in the break room. How did you know? I didn't, I guessed. That was one hell of a guess. I've seen that injury before. Helmand Province. Medic clamped a femoral bleeder too tight. Kid lost his leg because nobody checked distal flow. She poured coffee. I check now. The attending sat down. They said you were good. They didn't say you were this good. I'm not. I just remember the mistakes. He nodded slowly. Can you teach that? I can try. She did. Every day. In the OR. In the ER. In the break room at 3 in the morning when someone had a question they were too embarrassed to ask in front of their peers. Erin didn't have all the answers, but she had the scars. The memory of every time she'd been wrong, every time she'd been too slow, every time someone died because she missed something small. And she made sure nobody else had to learn those lessons the same way. 6 weeks in, Frost called again. I'm pulling you back to Anchorage. Why? Because the Surgeon General wants to meet you. Erin's stomach dropped. What? You heard me. She's flying in tomorrow, wants a briefing on the trauma integration program. Specifically, she wants to hear from you. I'm not a public speaker. You're the reason this program exists. You don't get to hide. Frost's tone softened. Look, I know this isn't what you signed up for. But people are paying attention. Real change is happening. Don't underestimate what that means. Erin flew to Anchorage the next morning, met Frost at a conference room in the federal building downtown. The Surgeon General, Vice Admiral Rachel Drummond, crisp uniform, calm eyes, was already there. Ms. Sadler, thank you for coming. Ma'am, please, sit, Drummond gestured. I've read your reports, all of them. Coldstone, Denali, Fairbanks. You've identified systemic gaps in how we handle trauma across military and civilian interfaces. Yes, ma'am. More importantly, you've fixed them. Or started to. Drummond leaned forward. I want to expand this nationally. Every hospital near a military installation gets the same training you've been doing, the same protocols, the same culture shift. Erin blinked. That's a lot of hospitals. 47 facilities, spread across 18 states. Drummond smiled. You'd have a team, other veterans with field experience, trauma nurses, paramedics, people who've seen what you've seen, but you'd be the lead, the architect. Erin felt the weight of it settle. I don't know if I'm the right person for that. You saved a general's life by noticing what everyone else missed. You've changed the way 3 hospitals approach trauma in less than 3 months. You're exactly the right person. Drummond stood, extended her hand. Think about it. But don't think too long. People are dying because we're not seeing what you see. The meeting ended. Erin walked out into the cold Anchorage afternoon, head spinning. Frost caught up with her on the steps. You're going to say yes. How do you know? Because you can't help yourself. You see the problem. You know the solution. Walking away would kill you. Erin laughed. It came out shaky. I just wanted to do my job. You are. This is just a bigger version of it. Erin took the offer, signed the papers, became the face of something she never asked for but couldn't ignore. The trauma integration program went national. Erin spent the next 4 months on the road, teaching, consulting, reviewing cases, pushing back against egos and protocols and the grinding inertia of systems that hated change. Some places welcomed her. Others fought her every step. At a hospital in Virginia, a trauma surgeon accused her of grandstanding. You got lucky once. That doesn't make you an expert. Erin didn't flinch. I got lucky 16 times. In combat, under fire, with equipment that barely worked. You've got state-of-the-art everything, and you're still missing injuries I can spot from across the room. So yeah, I'm going to keep talking. The surgeon filed a complaint. Frost shut it down within hours. At a facility in Georgia, she identified a pattern of missed spinal injuries in motorcycle accidents. The staff resisted, insisted their protocols were sound. 2 weeks later, a case came in that matched her exact warning. They caught it. The patient walked out of the hospital instead of being paralyzed. Nobody filed complaints after that. But not everyone was grateful. Erin started getting messages, anonymous emails. Some were just insults. Others were worse, personal attacks, threats, accusations that she was grandstanding off a general's near death for her own career. She deleted most of them, but they piled up. Frost noticed. You okay? Fine. You're not fine. You look exhausted. Erin set down her coffee. They were in a hotel lobby in North Carolina between site visits. I'm just tired of being the person everyone either loves or hates. I didn't ask for this. I know, but you're stuck with it. Frost's voice gentled. The people who hate you, they're loud. But the people you've saved, they're alive. That's the math that matters. Erin wanted to believe that. Most days she did. Then Coldstone called. Gail's voice came through shaky, unsteady. Erin, we need you. What happened? Holloway's dead. The world tilted. What? Heart attack last night. He collapsed in the parking lot. They tried to revive him, but Gail's voice broke. He's gone. Erin sat down hard. How? Massive MI. No warning. He was fine at rounds, and then a long breath. The funeral's in 3 days. I know you're busy, but if you could, I'll be there. She flew back to Alaska the next morning, landed in a snowstorm, drove to Coldstone through whiteout conditions that would have turned most people back. The hospital was quiet, subdued. People moved through the halls like ghosts. Tim found her in the break room. Didn't think you'd come. Had to. He talked about you. A lot. After you left. Erin looked up. What did he say? That you were right. About everything. That he spent his whole career thinking credentials mattered more than experience, and it took a logistics nurse to prove him wrong. Tim's eyes were red. He changed, Erin. Really changed. Started listening to people. Asked questions instead of lecturing. The residents loved him for it. Good. He wanted to tell you. Kept saying he'd call, never did. The funeral was small. Military honors. Flag-draped coffin. Holloway's ex-wife was there. His sister. A handful of colleagues. Erin stood in the back, watching the ceremony, feeling the strange ache of losing someone she'd barely known but somehow respected. Afterward, a woman approached her, late 50s, Holloway's sister. You're Erin Sadler. Yes. Marcus talked about you, said you saved his career. Erin frowned. I don't think he was going to quit. Before the Cade case, he was burned out, hated what he'd become. Then you showed up and reminded him why he went into medicine in the first place. The woman's voice wavered. He died doing what he loved because you gave him that back. So thank you. She walked away before Erin could respond. Erin stood in the snow, watching people disperse, feeling the weight of all the things she'd never said. That night, she drove back to the hotel, sat in the dark, stared at her phone. Frost had sent a message. New assignment. Texas. Big hospital. Bigger problems. Need you there Monday. Erin typed a response, deleted it, typed again. I need a break. The reply came instantly. How long? I don't know. 3 dots. Then, take 2 weeks. But after that, I need you back. This is too important. Erin set the phone down, closed her eyes. 2 weeks. She spent the first 3 days sleeping, the next 4 hiking, alone. Deep in the backcountry where cell service didn't reach and the only sounds were wind and her own breathing. On day 8, she drove to a veterans center in Anchorage, walked in without calling ahead, asked if they needed volunteers. The director, a former Marine named Santos, looked her up and down. You military? Army, medic. We've got a peer support group, Thursdays. Could use someone who knows the language. Erin nodded. I'll be there. She was. Listened to stories that sounded like her own, talked when it helped, stayed quiet when it didn't. Met a former combat engineer who couldn't hold a job because every loud noise sent him diving for cover. Met a nurse who'd done 3 tours and couldn't sleep without the lights on. They didn't ask about General Cade, didn't care about her title or her program. They just wanted to know she'd been there. In the dark. In the noise. In the place where nothing made sense, and you did your job anyway because people were counting on you. It helped. More than she expected. On day 13, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Ms. Sadler, this is Dr. Evelyn Cross. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Redstone Memorial in Houston. Erin sat up. Okay, I understand you're the civilian trauma specialist working with the Surgeon General's office. Yes. We have a situation. I'd like to bring you in as a consultant. What kind of situation? Cross hesitated. The kind where people are dying and nobody knows why. Erin's pulse quickened. Explain. 3 patients in the last 6 weeks. All came in with what looked like routine trauma. All declined rapidly. All died despite aggressive intervention. Cross's voice dropped. The state medical board is launching an investigation, but before they do, I want someone with your background to take a look. Off the record. Why me? Because you see things other people miss. And because if there's something systemic happening here, I need to know before the lawyers do. Erin stared at the ceiling, thought about Holloway, about the weight of things left unsaid. I'll be there Monday. She hung up. Texted Frost. Change of plans? Going to Houston. The reply was immediate. What happened to your break? Something came up. Of course it did. Erin packed, booked a flight, spent the weekend reading everything she could find about Redstone Memorial, big level 1 trauma center, excellent reputation, low mortality rates until recently. 3 deaths, all unexpected, all mysterious. She landed in Houston on a Sunday night, met Cross in her office Monday morning. The CMO looked like she hadn't slept in days. Thank you for coming. Walk me through it. Cross pulled up files. Patient 1, David Morrison, 32, motorcycle accident, broken ribs, pulmonary contusion, admitted for observation. Day 2, he crashed. Respiratory failure. We intubated, but he never recovered. Died 72 hours post-admission. Autopsy showed massive pulmonary embolism, but he was on prophylactic anticoagulation. It shouldn't have happened. Erin frowned. Next one. Patient 2. Sarah Kim, 45, fall from a ladder. Fractured pelvis, internal bleeding. Stabilized in the OR. Post-op course was rocky but manageable. Then on day 4, she went into cardiac arrest. Couldn't get her back. Cause? Unclear. Autopsy showed coronary thrombosis, but she had no cardiac history, no risk factors. Third patient? Cross's jaw tightened. James Ruiz, 51, construction accident, crush injury to the chest, managed conservatively, was doing well, then suddenly developed acute renal failure and septic shock, dead within 18 hours. Erin leaned back. 3 different mechanisms, 3 different outcomes. What's the common thread? That's what I need you to find out. Erin spent the next 2 days buried in charts, reviewed every note, every lab, every imaging study, talked to the nurses, the residents, the attendings who'd managed the cases. Everyone had the same answer. We did everything right. On day 3, she was reviewing Morrison's medication list when something caught her eye. A small detail, easy to miss. She pulled up Kim's chart, found the same thing, then Ruiz's. Her stomach went cold. She found Cross in a meeting, knocked, didn't wait for permission. I need to talk to you. Now. Cross excused herself, followed Erin into the hallway. What is it? Erin kept her voice low. All 3 patients were on the same medication, a new anticoagulant, prescribed post-trauma to prevent clots. That's standard protocol. I know, but look at the dosing. She pulled up her tablet, showed Cross the numbers. They were all getting double the recommended dose, consistently, across multiple shifts. Cross's face drained. That's not possible. We have automatic checks. The pharmacy would have flagged it. Unless someone overrode the system. Silence. You're saying this was deliberate. I'm saying someone made a mistake. Or someone did this on purpose. Either way, those patients didn't die from their injuries. They died from the treatment. Cross looked like she might be sick. If this gets out, it's going to. But if you report it now, you control the narrative. If the board finds it first, you don't. Cross nodded slowly, pulled out her phone, made a call. Within an hour, the hospital's internal safety team was mobilized. Pharmacy records were pulled, system logs reviewed. And the pattern emerged, clear, undeniable, damning. Someone had been manually overriding the dosage limits. 3 times. 3 patients, 3 deaths. The question was who? Erin stood in the conference room, watching the investigators work, and felt the familiar weight settle. She'd found the problem. Now came the hard part. The lead investigator, a grim woman named Torres, pulled Erin aside. The overrides all came from the same terminal, night shift, trauma ICU. Do you have a name? Torres hesitated. We're not ready to... Do you have a name? Yes. Then you need to lock this down before they run. Torres made the call. 2 hours later, security escorted a nurse out of the ICU, young, shaking, crying. Erin watched from the window, felt no satisfaction. Just the hollow ache of knowing that someone's mistake or malice had cost 3 people their lives. Cross found her later. They're saying it was negligence. She didn't understand the system, kept overriding the alerts because she thought they were wrong. Do you believe that? I don't know what to believe. Erin turned. It doesn't matter. The outcome's the same. 3 people are dead because your protocols failed, because nobody caught it. Cross flinched. We're implementing new safeguards, double checks, mandatory. Good, do that. But also ask yourself how many other hospitals have the same gaps. How many other nurses are overriding systems because they don't understand them? How many patients are dying because nobody's connecting the dots? What are you saying? Erin grabbed her coat. I'm saying this is bigger than Redstone, and you're going to need help fixing it. She walked out, called Frost from the parking lot. We have a problem. Frost listened, didn't interrupt. When Erin finished, there was a long silence. How sure are you? Completely. Then we're going to need to move fast. If this is happening in Houston, it could be happening anywhere. That's what I'm afraid of. Get back to DC. I'm calling an emergency meeting with the Surgeon General. We're going to need you to present this. Erin closed her eyes. I'm not an investigator. No, but you're the person who keeps finding what everyone else misses, so get on a plane and get here. We'll figure out the rest. The line went dead. Erin sat in her truck, engine running, watching people walk in and out of Redstone Memorial. Patients, families, staff, all of them trusting that the system worked, that the protocols kept them safe. And somewhere inside, a young nurse was sitting in a locked room, realizing her mistake had killed 3 people. Erin started driving, didn't know where she was going, just needed to move. Her phone buzzed. Text from Santos at the Veterans Center. Group's Thursday. You coming? She typed back. Not this week. Out of state. Stay safe. She smiled despite everything, trying. The flight to DC left at dawn. Erin barely slept, spent the flight reviewing her notes, building the case, trying to find the thread that connected Redstone to the bigger picture. She landed to a message from Frost. Meetings at 1400, DoD headquarters. Don't be late. Erin wasn't. The room was packed. Surgeon General Drummond, Frost, a half-dozen officials from the VA, DoD, and Department of Health. And in the corner, taking notes, a woman Erin didn't recognize. Drummond started. Ms. Sadler, you've identified what appears to be a critical safety gap in trauma medication protocols. Walk us through it. Erin did, step by step. The deaths, the dosing errors, the system overrides, the complete failure of safeguards designed to prevent exactly this. When she finished, the room was silent. One of the DoD officials spoke. How widespread do you think this is? I don't know. But if it's happening at a top-tier facility like Redstone, I'd bet it's happening elsewhere. What do you recommend? Erin looked at Drummond. Audit every facility in the integration program. Pull medication records. Look for patterns. And retrain every nurse and pharmacist on override protocols. That's thousands of people. Then we better get started. The meeting broke. Drummond asked Erin to stay. When the room cleared, the Admiral sat down across from her. You've been doing this for 6 months. You've identified gaps nobody else saw, saved lives nobody else could, and now you've uncovered what might be a national safety crisis. She paused. How are you holding up? Erin didn't answer right away. I'm tired. I know, but I need you for this. We all do. What if I can't do it anymore? Drummond's expression softened. Then you stop. Walk away. No judgment. But I don't think you will. Why not? Because you can't unsee what you've seen, and you can't live with yourself if you don't fix it. Erin looked away. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's true. The audit launched the next day. 47 hospitals, thousands of records, teams of investigators combing through data looking for the same pattern Erin had found. They found it. 5 more facilities, 8 additional deaths, all linked to the same dosing errors, all preventable. The story broke 3 weeks later. National news, headlines screaming about systemic failures and preventable deaths. Redstone's CMO resigned. The nurse who'd made the overrides was charged with negligent homicide, and Erin Sadler's name was everywhere. She stopped reading the articles, stopped watching the news, just kept working. Then the phone call came. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Ms. Sadler? Yes. This is Margaret Morrison, David Morrison's mother. Erin's breath caught. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know you are. I read about what you found, about how my son died. The woman's voice was steady, calm. I wanted to thank you. Ma'am, Nobody else was looking. Nobody else cared enough to ask why. You did. You found the truth. And because of that, other families won't have to go through what we did. A pause. So thank you, from the bottom of my heart. The line went dead. Erin sat in her hotel room, phone still pressed to her ear, and felt something crack open inside her chest. Not grief, not guilt, just the raw, unbearable weight of mattering. She called Frost. I need to come home. Where's home? Alaska, the Veterans Center. The people who don't need me to save them, just to show up. Frost was quiet for a long moment. How long? I don't know, maybe forever. You know I can't let you do that. I know. But I can give you a month, real time off. No calls, no assignments, just rest. And after that? After that, we'll see. Frost's voice gentled. You've done enough, Erin. More than enough. Whatever comes next, it's your choice. Erin flew back to Alaska the next day, walked into the Veterans Center. Santos looked up from his desk. Thought you were saving the world. Turns out the world's exhausting. He laughed. Coffee's fresh. Group's in an hour. You staying? Yeah, I'm staying. She sat in the circle, listened to stories, shared a few of her own. Nobody asked about Redstone or the audit or the headlines. They just asked if she was okay. She wasn't sure how to answer, but for the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. That night, her phone buzzed. Email from an address she didn't recognize. Subject line, You don't know me, but you saved my life. She opened it. My name is Jennifer Oakes. I was a patient at Redstone Memorial 2 months ago. Routine surgery. I was put on the same medication protocol that killed those other patients. But because of your audit, my doctor caught the dosing error before it hurt me. I'm writing to say thank you, and to tell you that my daughter gets to grow up with a mother because you refused to look away. Erin read it 3 times. Then she walked outside, stood in the freezing dark, looked up at the stars scattered across the Alaskan sky. Somewhere, a woman she'd never met was alive. Somewhere, a daughter still had her mother. Somewhere, the system was changing because one person had refused to stay quiet. Erin closed her eyes, felt the cold bite her skin, and made a decision. She went back inside, typed a response to Frost. I'm coming back. But on my terms. I choose the assignments, I choose the pace, and if I say I'm done, you let me walk. The reply came within minutes. Deal. First assignment starts in 2 weeks. There's a hospital in Montana that's flagged 3 unexpected deaths in trauma patients. Nobody can figure out why. Erin stared at the message. Then she smiled. Send me the files. The files arrived at midnight. Erin opened them on her laptop, sitting in the Veterans Center break room with cold coffee and the kind of silence that only came after everyone else had gone home. 3 deaths, Helena Regional Medical Center, Montana, 2 months apart. All trauma patients, all young, all unexpected. She read through the first case. Tyler Brennan, 28. A TV rollover. Fractured ribs, minor head injury. Admitted for observation. Developed sudden respiratory distress on day 2. Intubated. Never woke up. Cause of death listed as acute respiratory failure, etiology unclear. Second case. Amanda Cross, 31. Car accident. Broken femur, lacerated spleen, surgery went well. Recovery normal until day 3 when she seized. Then coded. Couldn't be revived. Autopsy showed cerebral edema but no clear source. Third case. Miguel Santos, 26, industrial accident, crushed hand, facial fractures, stable throughout admission, then crashed suddenly on day 4. Cardiac arrest. Dead before they could figure out why. Erin leaned back, stared at the screen. Different injuries, different timelines. But something felt familiar. The same wrongness she'd sensed at Redstone. She called Frost at 0200. This better be good. The Montana cases. Something's off. Off how? I don't know yet, but it's the same pattern. Routine trauma, unexpected decline, no clear cause. Frost was quiet for a moment. You think it's another medication issue? Maybe. Or something else. I need to see the hospital. I'll make the call. How soon can you be there? Give me 2 days. Erin spent the next 48 hours digging, pulled every available record on Helena Regional, talked to contacts at the state medical board, ran down rumors and third-hand gossip from nurses who'd worked there and left. What she found wasn't encouraging. Helena Regional was struggling. Budget cuts, staff turnover, equipment that should have been replaced years ago. The kind of slow institutional decay that happened when nobody was watching and everyone was too tired to care. She flew into Helena on a Thursday, rented a car, drove through mountain passes still dusted with late spring snow. The hospital sat on the edge of town, squat building, outdated architecture, parking lot half empty even during visiting hours. The chief of medicine met her in the lobby. Dr. Raymond Kessler, late 50s, thin hair, the kind of tired that went deeper than sleep. Ms. Sadler, thank you for coming. Call me Erin. Ray. He gestured toward the elevator. I'll be honest. When the state said they were sending someone, I expected a bureaucrat, not... He paused. Well, not you. Disappointed? Relieved. They rode up in silence. Kessler's office was cramped, stacks of files on every surface, coffee mug with a ring stain that looked permanent. The 3 deaths, Erin said. Walk me through your investigation. Kessler pulled out a folder. We did everything by the book. Chart reviews, M&M conferences, brought in an outside pathologist for the autopsies. Nobody could find a definitive cause. What's your theory? Bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. Sometimes people just die and we don't know why. Erin studied him. You don't believe that. He met her eyes. No, but I don't have a better answer. Then let me look. Kessler gave her access to everything: charts, lab results, pharmacy records, imaging. She set up in an empty conference room and started from the beginning. Hour 1, nothing obvious, standard workups, appropriate interventions. Hour 3, still nothing. But the feeling persisted, that itch in the back of her mind that said she was missing something. Hour 5, she found it. Small detail. Buried in the nursing notes. All 3 patients had been transferred to the same unit on the second floor. All 3 had the same primary nurse for at least 1 shift, and all 3 had received medication from the same automated dispensing cabinet. Erin pulled up the cabinet logs. Medications dispensed. Times. Quantities. There. A pattern. All 3 patients had received pain medication from that cabinet during the 12 hours before they crashed. But the dosages logged didn't match the amounts dispensed. Small discrepancies. Easy to miss if you weren't looking. She found Kessler in the ICU. I need to see your medication dispensing system. Why? Because I think someone's been pulling extra doses and nobody noticed. His face went pale. That's a serious accusation. I know. Show me the cabinet. They went to the second floor. The unit was quiet. Afternoon shift. Nurses at the station looked up as they passed. The automated cabinet sat in the medication room. Standard model. Secure. Required fingerprint and password to access. Erin pulled up the logs on the internal screen. Scrolled back 3 months. Look at this, she said, pointing. Patient Brennan, morphine dispensed at 1400, 4 milligrams logged, but the cabinet dispensed 6. Kessler leaned in. That could be a system error. Check Santos. He did. Same pattern. Discrepancy between logged and dispensed amounts. Cross 2, Erin said quietly. Kessler ran it. His hands shook slightly. Someone's been taking medication and giving it to patients off the record, either accidentally or deliberately. His voice came out flat. We need to call security. We need to figure out who first. Pull the access logs. See who opened that cabinet during those shifts. It took 20 minutes. The answer came back clear. One name appeared on all 3 shifts. Same nurse who'd been assigned to all 3 patients. Lydia Morse. Kessler's face went gray. She's been here 15 years. I've never had a single complaint. Where is she now? Off today, back tomorrow morning. Erin looked at the screen, at the pattern laid bare. We need to secure that cabinet, now. And we need to review every patient she's touched in the last 6 months. If this gets out, it's already out. The state's involved. The Surgeon General's office is watching. You can either get ahead of this or let it bury you. Kessler made the call. Within 2 hours, hospital security had locked down the cabinet. IT pulled complete access records. The pharmacy director was in Kessler's office, face red, demanding to know how this had happened under his watch. Erin stayed out of it, kept reviewing charts, looking for other cases, other patients who might have been affected. She found 2 more. Both survived. But both had unexplained complications during their stays. Respiratory depression. Altered mental status. Things that resolved but were never fully explained. By evening, the picture was complete. 5 patients affected. 3 dead. 2 who got lucky. And 1 nurse at the center of it all. Kessler found Erin in the conference room at 2100. Security's going to pick her up tomorrow morning. Bring her in for questioning. What's her story? Exemplary record. Never missed a shift. Volunteers at the free clinic. Everyone loves her. People love the nurse at Redstone, too. Kessler sat down heavily. I don't understand. Why would she do this? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Erin didn't sleep that night. Kept thinking about Lydia Morse. 15 years, clean record, and then 3 people dead. What changed? She was still thinking about it when her phone rang at 0600. Kessler's voice came through tight. Controlled panic barely held in check. She's gone. What? Morse. She didn't show up for her shift. Security went to her house. She's not there. Her car's gone. Her phone's off. Erin was already grabbing her jacket. Did you call the police? They're looking for her now, but Erin... He paused. There's something else. We pulled her locker, found a notebook, pages and pages of patient names, dates, medication doses. She was keeping records. Not just records, notes about how they responded, how long it took, what worked and what didn't. His voice cracked. She was experimenting on them. Aaron's stomach turned. I'm on my way. She made it to the hospital in 15 minutes. Kessler met her in the lobby with 2 police officers and a woman in a suit who introduced herself as Detective Sarah Vance. You're the trauma specialist, Vance said. Yes. Good. We need your help. Morse isn't just missing. She called the hospital 20 minutes ago, left a message on Kessler's voicemail. What did she say? Vance pulled out her phone, played the recording. Lydia Morse's voice came through clear, calm, almost pleasant. Dr. Kessler, I know what you found. I know what you think, but you're wrong. I wasn't hurting them. I was trying to help. Pain management in trauma patients is barbaric. We undertreat because we're afraid of addiction, afraid of respiratory depression. But what about their suffering? I was trying to find better protocols, better dosing. I documented everything. If people died, it wasn't because I wanted them to. It was because the system is broken and nobody cares enough to fix it. A pause. Then, I'm not running. I'm finishing what I started. There's a patient in the ICU right now. Room 214, David Chen, motorcycle accident. He's in pain. I'm going to help him. And when I'm done, you'll see I was right. The recording ended. Vance looked at Aaron. Room 214, you know it? Yeah. They ran. The ICU was on the 4th floor. They took the stairs, burst through the doors. Nurses at the station looked up, startled. Room 214, Vance shouted. Now! They rounded the corner. The door was open. Inside, a man lay in the bed, early 30s, leg in traction, monitors beeping steadily. And standing next to him, syringe in hand, was Lydia Morse. She looked up, smiled slightly. You're faster than I expected. Vance had her gun out. Put the syringe down. I'm a nurse. This is my job. Put it down. Now. Lydia looked at the patient. He's suffering. Can't you see that? The patient, David Chen, stared at her with wide, terrified eyes. Get away from me. I'm trying to help you. Put the syringe down, Vance repeated. Last warning. Aaron stepped forward slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Lydia, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. The research speaks for itself. Research requires consent. These people didn't consent. They were in pain. That's consent enough. No, it's not. Aaron moved closer. You're a nurse. You know that. You've always known that. Lydia's hand wavered. I was trying to make things better. I know, but this isn't the way. Then what is? Tell me. Because I've watched people suffer for 15 years and nobody does anything about it. Nobody cares. They just keep prescribing the same inadequate doses and telling patients to tough it out. So you decided to fix it yourself. Someone had to. Aaron was close now, 5 feet, 4. And the people who died? Lydia's face crumpled. That wasn't supposed to happen. I was careful. I documented everything, but their systems were fragile. The medications interacted. Her voice broke. I didn't mean for them to die. I believe you, Aaron said quietly. But you need to put the syringe down. Right now, before someone else gets hurt. Lydia looked at the syringe, at the patient, at Aaron. I was trying to help, she whispered. I know. The syringe clattered to the floor. Vance moved fast. Had Lydia in cuffs before she could react. Ritter writes while 2 officers escorted her out. Aaron checked the patient. Vitals stable. No medications given. He'd gotten lucky. Thank you, he breathed. Don't thank me. Thank the detective. Kessler appeared in the doorway. Looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last hour. Is it over? For now. They stood in the room, listening to monitors beep, watching the patient breathe. What happens now? Kessler asked. Now you fix your systems. Make sure this can't happen again. And Morse? That's for the courts. Aaron left the hospital an hour later, drove to a diner on the edge of town, ordered coffee she didn't drink, stared at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Frost. I heard. You okay? Define okay. Fair. The Surgeon General wants a full report. I'll write it. She also wants you in D.C. next week. There's a congressional hearing on patient safety. They want you to testify. Erin closed her eyes. I'm not a politician. You're the person who keeps uncovering things politicians have been ignoring. Close enough. I'll think about it. Think fast. The hearing's Monday. Erin hung up, sat in the diner booth, watched the sun set over the mountains. A waitress came by, refilled her coffee without asking. Rough day? Something like that. Well, tomorrow's a new one. Erin smiled despite herself. Yeah. She drove back to her hotel, packed her things, booked a flight to D.C. for Sunday night. Then she called Santos at the Veterans Center. How's the world saving going? Exhausting. Need to talk about it. Not yet, but soon. I'll be here. The flight to D.C. was delayed. Mechanical issues. Erin sat in the airport for 3 hours, watching travelers rush past, thinking about Lydia Morse. 15 years. Exemplary record. And then something broke. What had Frost said once? The system doesn't fail from lack of skill. It fails from ignoring experience. But what happened when experience turned into obsession? When helping turned into harm? She didn't have an answer. The hearing room was packed. Senators, staff, journalists, cameras, the kind of circus Erin had spent her entire career avoiding. Lieutenant General Frost sat in the front row, gave her a small nod. The committee chair, Senator Patricia Gilmore, gray hair pulled back severe, called the room to order. We're here today to discuss systemic failures in hospital patient safety protocols, particularly as they relate to medication management and oversight. Our first witness is Ms. Erin Sadler, Civilian Trauma Integration Specialist with the Department of Defense Medical Command. Erin walked to the witness table, sat, adjusted the microphone. Gilmore leaned forward. Ms. Sadler, you've been investigating unexplained deaths at trauma centers across the country. Can you summarize your findings? Erin took a breath. In the past 6 months, I've identified 13 deaths across 6 hospitals that were directly caused by medication errors. These weren't random mistakes. They were systematic failures in how we dispense, track, and verify controlled substances. 13 deaths. Yes, ma'am. And how many of these were caught by the hospitals themselves before you got involved? None. Murmurs rippled through the room. Another senator, Marcus Webb, younger, ambitious, jumped in. Ms. Sadler, you're not a doctor. You're not a pharmacist. What qualifies you to make these determinations? I'm a former Army combat medic with 6 years of field experience. I've seen what happens when medication protocols fail under pressure. I know what to look for. With all due respect, battlefield medicine and hospital care are very different. They're not as different as you think. People die the same way. And the mistakes that kill them are often the same too. Webb leaned back. Gilmore suppressed a smile. Continue, Ms. Sadler. She did. Walk them through Redstone, Helena, the patterns, the gaps. The nurses and pharmacists who'd been overwhelmed, undertrained, or, in Morse's case, dangerously misguided. What we're seeing, Erin said, is a system designed for perfect conditions staffed by exhausted people with inadequate support. And when that system breaks, patients die. What's your recommendation? Mandatory override protocols, automated cross-checks that can't be bypassed, and most importantly, training that teaches people to question the system instead of blindly trusting it. That's expensive. So is settling wrongful death lawsuits. The room went quiet. Gilmore nodded slowly. Thank you, Ms. Sadler. We'll take your recommendations under advisement. The hearing broke for lunch. Erin escaped to the hallway, found Frost waiting. You did good in there. I feel like I just painted a target on my back. You did, but you also just changed the conversation. Webb's already walking back his comments on Twitter. Erin's phone buzzed. Unknown number, she answered. Ms. Sadler, this is Dr. Raymond Kessler. Ray, how are things in Montana? Complicated, but that's not why I'm calling. He paused. We found something. In Morse's notebook, a list of other hospitals, other nurses she'd been corresponding with, comparing notes, sharing protocols. Erin's chest tightened. How many? 12 names. Across 8 states. Are you saying... I'm saying Lydia Morse wasn't working alone. She was part of a network. People who thought they were conducting legitimate research into pain management. But they were doing it on patients without consent, without oversight. And we have no idea how many people have been affected. The hallway spun. Send me everything you have, Erin said. Right now. Already done. Check your email. She hung up, pulled out her laptop, opened the files. 12 names, detailed correspondence, protocols, results, complications. And buried in the data, casualty counts. At least 40 deaths. Maybe more. Frost appeared at her shoulder. Read over her arm, went pale. How is this possible? Because nobody was looking, Erin said. Because these were just nurses, just people doing their jobs. Nobody thought to connect the dots. We need to shut this down. We need to find them first. Frost made a call. Within the hour, FBI agents were in the building, reviewing the files, cross-referencing names with hospital employment records. By evening, they had locations. Hospitals in Oregon, Texas, Michigan, Florida, all with nurses who'd been part of Morse's network. The operation launched at dawn. Coordinated raids. Federal agents walking into hospitals across the country. Securing records. Interviewing staff. Erin was on a plane to Portland by 800. Part of the team executing warrants at Cascade Valley Medical Center. The nurse they were looking for, Julia Renfrow, was in the middle of her shift when they arrived. Didn't run. Didn't resist. Just looked up from her medication cart and said, I wondered when you'd figure it out. The interrogation lasted 3 hours. Renfrow talked, explained the network, how it started with a private forum for nurses frustrated with inadequate pain protocols, how Morse had convinced them they could do better, how the experiments had begun small and grown. Did you know people were dying? The FBI agent asked. We knew there were complications, but Lydia said that was part of the research, that we had to accept some loss to find better answers. These were human beings. I know. Renfrow's voice was flat, empty. But they were suffering, and we were trying to help. By the end of the week, all 12 nurses were in custody. The total death count climbed to 53. Hospitals across the country scrambled to review their records. Families filed lawsuits. The media called it the biggest medical scandal in decades. And Erin Sadler was at the center of it all. She testified at 3 more hearings, consulted on investigations in 6 states, helped develop new federal protocols for medication oversight that would become standard across every hospital in the country. But the work took its toll. She stopped sleeping, stopped eating regular meals, lived on coffee and adrenaline and the grinding knowledge that somewhere, right now, another patient might be dying because of a gap she hadn't found yet. Frost noticed, ordered her to take time off. Erin refused. There's too much to do. There's always too much to do, but you're burning out. I'm fine. You're not. And if you don't stop, you're going to break. But Erin didn't know how to stop, didn't know how to turn off the part of her brain that kept looking for patterns, kept seeing problems nobody else saw. Then came the call from General Augustine Cade. Ms. Sadler, we need to talk. Sir, I've been following your work. The medication network, the congressional testimony. You've done extraordinary things. Thank you. But I'm calling because I'm concerned. People in my position hear things, and what I'm hearing is that you're running yourself into the ground. Erin said nothing. I know what that looks like, Cade continued. I've lost good people to it. Soldiers who couldn't stop fighting even after the war ended. They burned themselves out trying to fix everything, trying to save everyone. Someone has to. Yes, but not one person, not alone. His voice gentled. You saved my life. You've saved dozens of others. But you can't carry this by yourself. Then who? The system you're building, the protocols, the training, that's what carries it forward. You just have to let it. The line went quiet. I don't know if I can, Erin said finally. Then learn, before it destroys you. He hung up. Erin sat in her hotel room, somewhere in Michigan she'd lost track, and stared at her phone. Thought about Holloway, about Lydia Morse, about all the people who'd started with good intentions and ended up broken by the weight of trying to fix an unfixable system. She called Santos. I need to come home. Then come home. I don't know if I remember how. Start by getting on a plane. We'll figure out the rest. She did. Flew back to Alaska, walked into the Veterans Center. Santos took one look at her and pointed to a chair. Sit. She sat. When's the last time you ate? I don't remember. He brought her soup. Didn't say anything, just sat across from her while she ate. I can't do this anymore, she said finally. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? That you have to keep going? That the world needs you? You already know that. What you need to hear is that it's okay to stop. Is it? I don't know, but you're going to burn out if you don't figure it out. Erin finished the soup, set the bowl down. Cade called me, said I can't carry this alone. Smart man, but I don't know how to share it. Every time I hand something off, I worry it won't get done right. That someone will miss what I would have caught. That's ego talking. She looked up sharply. Santos smiled. I say that with love, but it's true. You think you're the only person who can see these problems, the only one who cares enough to fix them. And maybe that was true once, but now you've trained hundreds of people, changed protocols at dozens of hospitals, built a system that keeps working even when you're not there. What if it's not enough? Then you make it better. But you don't do it alone. And you don't do it at the cost of your own life. Erin leaned back, closed her eyes, felt the exhaustion settle into her bones. I don't know what comes next. Nobody does. But you'll figure it out. She spent the next 2 weeks at the center, attending groups, volunteering, sleeping more than 4 hours a night for the first time in months. Then Frost called. There's a situation. Erin's stomach dropped. I'm on leave. I know, but this is different. We've got a major trauma incident at a military hospital in Germany. Mass casualty event. The base commander is asking for you specifically. Why me? Because the casualties include a senator's son and 3 journalists, and if anything goes wrong, it becomes an international incident. Send someone else. There is no one else. You're the best we have, and they need the best. Erin stared at the ceiling, thought about what Cade had said, about carrying things alone. I'll go, but on one condition. Name it. I want a team, people I choose, people I trust, and when this is done, I want a month off. No calls, no emergencies, just time. Deal. She hung up, started making calls. First, Tim from Coldstone, the night nurse who'd been the only one to ask about her deployments. You busy? Always. Why? How do you feel about Germany? He laughed. When do we leave? Second, a nurse from Fairbanks named Maria, sharp, unflappable, had called Erin out once for missing a medication interaction and been absolutely right. I need someone who's not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. Then you definitely need me. Third, a former Army physician assistant named Derek Walsh, 3 deployments, trauma certification. Had left the service to be closer to his kids, but still missed the work. Mass casualty in Germany. High stakes. Probably going to be a nightmare. Sounds perfect. I'm in. The team met at Ramstein Air Base 72 hours later. Erin briefed them on the flight over. IED hit a convoy carrying diplomatic personnel. Senator's son is the worst injured, penetrating abdominal trauma, possible spinal involvement. 3 journalists have varying degrees of blast injuries. The base hospital is equipped but overwhelmed. What do they need from us? Maria asked. Expertise, oversight, and someone to take the heat if things go sideways. Tim snorted. So, business as usual. They landed at 0400 local time. The base hospital was a controlled chaos, gurneys everywhere, blood on the floors, staff moving fast but tense. The base commander, Colonel James Fitzgerald, met them at the door. Thank God you're here. The senator's son is in surgery now, conditions critical. The surgeons are good, but they're nervous. If he dies on this table, he's not going to die, Erin said. Show us the OR. They scrubbed in. Erin watched through the observation window first, assessed the team, the patient, the flow. They're missing the spleen, she said quietly. Derek looked. How can you tell? Left upper quadrant distension. They're focused on the obvious injuries, but there's internal bleeding they haven't found yet. She went in, scrubbed, gloved, approached the table. The lead surgeon looked up. Who are trauma specialist DOD sent us? You've got a splenic laceration you're missing. We already checked. Check again. Left upper quadrant, posterior. The surgeon hesitated, then probed. Found it. There. Bleeder. We need clamp and ligate. Move fast. His pressure's dropping. They worked, found the laceration, controlled the bleed, stabilized the patient. 2 hours later, the senator's son was in ICU, stable, alive. Fitzgerald found Aaron in the hallway. You just saved my career. I saved a kid's life. Your career's your problem. But she smiled when she said it. The team spent 3 days at Ramstein, managed the other casualties, trained the staff, fixed gaps in their protocols. On the flight home, Aaron looked at her team. You all did good work. We had a good teacher, Maria said. No, you were good before I showed up. You just needed permission to trust yourselves. Tim raised his coffee. To trusting ourselves. They clinked cups. Aaron leaned back, closed her eyes. Felt something shift. Maybe Cade was right. Maybe she couldn't carry this alone, but maybe she didn't have to. The plane touched down in Anchorage at midnight. Aaron said goodbye to her team, drove to the Veterans Center, found Santos in his office, buried in paperwork. How was Germany? Hard. Good. We saved some lives. That's all you can ask for. She sat down. I've been thinking about what you said, about ego, about carrying things alone. And you were right. I can't do this by myself, and I shouldn't try. Santos nodded. So what's next? I build the team, make it bigger, train more people, create a system that doesn't need me to function. And then? Then I figure out who I am when I'm not trying to save the world. Her phone buzzed. She almost didn't look, but something made her check. Unknown number. Text message. Miss Sadler. This is Lydia Morse, Phobos. I'm writing from detention. I need to tell you something. Something about the network you think you shut down. You didn't get all of us. There are others. People I never told you about. And they're still out there. Still experimenting. I'm sorry, but you need to know. Aaron stared at the screen. Santos looked over. What is it? She showed him. He read it, went pale. Is she telling the truth? I don't know. What are you going to do? Aaron stood, grabbed her jacket. I'm going to find out. She called Frost from the parking lot. The line picked up on the second ring. This better be urgent. Morse says the network's still active. There are more people we didn't find. Silence. Then, where are you? Alaska. About to get on a plane. To where? Wherever Morse is being held. I need to talk to her face to face. She's at a federal detention center in Colorado. I'll have credentials waiting for you at Denver. Frost paused. Aaron, if she's telling the truth, then we've got a bigger problem than we thought. And if she's lying, if this is just a play for attention, then I wasted a trip, but I have to know. The flight left at 600. Aaron barely made it, sat in the back row, laptop open, going through every file they had on the 12 nurses they'd arrested, looking for connections they'd missed, names that didn't fit, gaps in the communication logs. She found 3. References in Morse's correspondence to people identified only by initials, JK in Boston, RT in Phoenix, ML in Seattle. Not nurses from the network they'd already uncovered. Someone else. Aaron pulled up hospital employment databases, cross-referenced initials with trauma units in those cities. 2 matches came back immediately. Jennifer Kowalski, RN, Massachusetts General. Robert Tran, RN, Phoenix Memorial. The third took longer, but eventually, Michelle Lindstrom, RN, Harborview Medical Center, Seattle. All 3 currently employed. All 3 with access to medication dispensing systems. All 3 with patient assignments in trauma units. Aaron forwarded the information to Frost with a single line. Start here. The plane landed in Denver at noon. A federal agent met her at the gate. Young, professional, didn't waste time with small talk. Agent Marcus Webb, I'll be escorting you to the facility. Let's go. The detention center was 40 minutes outside the city, concrete and razor wire, and the kind of institutional bleakness that made your skin crawl. Webb walked her through security, 3 checkpoints, metal detectors, pat-down, then a long hallway that smelled like disinfectant and despair. Morse was waiting in an interrogation room. Orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed to the table. She looked smaller than Aaron remembered, tired, but her eyes were sharp. You came. Aaron sat down across from her. Webb stayed by the door. You said there were others. Give me names. I want something first. You're not in a position to negotiate. I want a reduced sentence, immunity from additional charges, and protection. Protection from what? Morse leaned forward. From the people who are going to be very unhappy when they find out I'm talking to you. Aaron studied her. How big is this? Bigger than you think. The 12 nurses you arrested? We were just one circle. There are others. People I only met online, people with different methods, different goals. Different goals? Pain management was my focus, but there were groups studying cardiac protocols, sedation strategies, even experimental treatments for traumatic brain injuries. Morse's voice dropped. We all thought we were doing legitimate research, but the boundaries kept shifting, and eventually people started dying. How many groups? At least 4 that I knew about, maybe more. Aaron's stomach turned. And you didn't think to stop? I tried. When I realized how bad it had gotten. But by then I was in too deep. If I spoke up, I'd lose my license, my career, everything I'd worked for. Her eyes glistened. So I kept quiet, and more people died. That's not remorse, that's self-preservation. I know. Morse looked down at her cuffed hands. That's why I'm telling you now, before it's too late. Aaron pulled out her tablet, showed Morse the 3 names she'd found. Are these part of it? Morse nodded. Yes, all 3. But they're small players. You want the person running this, the one who started it all? Who? Dr. Nathan Cross. Physician, researcher. He runs a consulting firm that advises hospitals on trauma protocols. He's the one who recruited most of us, told us we were participating in groundbreaking research, that the IRB approvals were pending, that everything was legitimate. Where is he? Last I heard, Chicago, but he moves around a lot, different hospitals, different cities, always one step ahead. Aaron stood. Webb, I need to make a call. She stepped into the hallway, called Frost, relayed everything. Nathan Cross, Frost repeated, trauma consultant. I'll run him through the system. If he's connected to any military hospitals, we'll find him. And the 3 nurses? FBI's already moving. They'll be in custody by tonight. Aaron went back into the room. Morse was watching the door. What happens to me now? That's up to the prosecutors, but if what you told me pans out, it'll help. And if it doesn't, then you'll spend a long time thinking about the people you killed. Aaron walked out. By the time she landed back in Denver, Frost had information. Nathan Cross wasn't just a consultant. He was a former trauma surgeon who'd lost his medical license 5 years ago after multiple patient deaths linked to experimental procedures he'd performed without proper oversight. Since then, he'd reinvented himself as a protocol advisor, traveled the country, gave lectures, consulted with hospitals on cutting-edge trauma management strategies, and recruited nurses to test his theories on real patients. We've got a warrant, Frost said. His office is in Chicago. FBI's hitting it tomorrow morning. I want you there. Why? Because if there's evidence, you'll know what to look for. And if he runs, you'll know where he's going. Aaron caught the last flight to Chicago, met the FBI team at a hotel near O'Hare. The lead agent, a woman named Sandra Reeves with gray-streaked hair and permanent frown lines, briefed the team. Nathan Cross operates out of a small office in the Loop. We've got surveillance showing he was there as of 1800 yesterday. Warrants valid as of 0600 tomorrow. We go in fast, secure everything, and get out. What if he's not there? Someone asked. Then we tear the place apart until we find out where he went. The raid launched at dawn. 6 agents, battering ram. The door came down in 2 hits. The office was empty, but the files weren't. Aaron stood in the center of the room, looking at filing cabinets stacked floor to ceiling, bankers' boxes overflowing with papers, a computer still humming on the desk. Start photographing everything, Reeves ordered. I want every document cataloged. Aaron went straight to the computer. No password. Either Cross was arrogant or careless. She pulled up his email. Thousands of messages. Communications with nurses across the country. Detailed protocols, results data. Incident reports that were never filed with any regulatory board. And buried in a folder labeled Outcomes, a spreadsheet. Patient names, hospitals, dates, medications administered, results, deceased, deceased. The list went on for pages. Aaron's hands shook. Reeves, you need to see this. The agent came over, read the screen, went white. How many? I'm counting. Aaron scrolled, kept scrolling. At least 200, maybe more. Jesus Christ. Get this to DOJ now. Within hours, the operation expanded. FBI field offices in 12 cities executed simultaneous warrants. Nurses were arrested, hospitals locked down their records. The story broke on every major network. 200 deaths. Potentially more. All linked to a rogue physician and a network of nurses who thought they were conducting research. The backlash was immediate. Hospitals scrambled to distance themselves. Medical boards launched investigations. Families filed lawsuits. And Nathan Cross disappeared. No one had seen him since the day before the raid. His apartment was empty. His car was gone. His phone went straight to voicemail. Reeves put out an alert. Every airport, every border crossing, every hospital in the country. He can't hide forever, she said. He doesn't need forever, Aaron replied. Just long enough to destroy evidence or disappear completely. We'll find him. But 3 days passed, then a week. No sign of Cross. Aaron went back to work, helped the FBI analyze the seized files, identified additional victims, contacted families. The work was grueling. Every name on that spreadsheet was a person. Someone's son, someone's mother, someone who'd trusted the system and died because of it. She was in her hotel room, knee-deep in case files, when her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Miss Sadler. A man's voice, smooth, calm. I've been hoping we'd get a chance to talk. Her blood went cold. Nathan Cross. Guilty, though I prefer to think of myself as a visionary who was ahead of his time. You're a murderer. I'm a researcher. There's a difference. Tell that to the 200 people on your spreadsheet. He laughed, actually laughed. You found that, did you? I should have encrypted it better. But honestly, I'm impressed. You've been quite the problem for us, Miss Sadler, shutting down operations, arresting colleagues, making it very difficult to continue our work. Good. But here's the thing. You can't stop what's already in motion. The research continues. New protocols are being tested. And even if you arrest every nurse, every consultant, every person you can find, there will always be someone else willing to push boundaries. Why are you calling me? To offer you a choice. Walk away. Stop digging. Let the authorities handle whatever scraps they've found. Or keep going and discover that some problems are bigger than one person can solve. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. You've already burned yourself out trying to save everyone. How much more can you take before you break? Aaron's grip tightened on the phone. Where are you? Somewhere you'll never find me. Goodbye, Ms. Sadler. Try not to lose too much sleep over the ones you couldn't save. He hung up. Aaron immediately called Reeves. Cross just contacted me. Can you trace it? Send me the number. She did. Reeves called back 20 minutes later. Burner phone. Signal bounced through 3 cell towers in the Seattle area. He's probably already dumped it. Seattle. Does that mean something to you? Aaron pulled up her notes. Michelle Lindstrom. Harborview Medical Center, Seattle. Yeah, it means he's going after one of the nurses we haven't arrested yet. She was on a plane within 2 hours, called ahead to the Seattle FBI field office, coordinated with local police. By the time she landed, they had surveillance on Lindstrom's house and the hospital. No sign of Cross. Aaron met the local FBI lead, Agent Frank Torres, outside Harborview. Lindstrom's on shift, trauma ICU. We've got plainclothes officers inside, but we don't want to spook her if Cross is nearby. Have you talked to her? Not yet, waiting for you. They went in, found Lindstrom at the nurses' station, reviewing charts, early 40s, blonde hair pulled back, wedding ring. Aaron approached. Michelle Lindstrom? She looked up. Yes? Aaron showed her credentials. I need to talk to you about Nathan Cross. Lindstrom's face went pale. I don't know who that is. Yes, you do. You've been communicating with him for 2 years. Testing protocols he designed, administering medications without proper oversight. I want a lawyer. That's your right. But first I need to know. Has Cross contacted you recently? Lindstrom hesitated. Why? Because I think he's coming for you, and I don't think it's to say thank you. The color drained from her face. He called yesterday, Said we needed to meet, that there were problems with the research data. I told him I couldn't, that I was done. What did he say? He said I didn't have a choice, that we were all in this together. Where were you supposed to meet? Pike Place Market, tomorrow at noon. Aaron looked at Torres. We need to set up there, full surveillance. If he shows, we take him. Torres nodded. I'll coordinate with SWPD. They spent the next 18 hours planning. Undercover officers, cameras, multiple points of coverage. Lindstrom agreed to wear a wire and keep the meeting. Noon came. Pike Place was crowded. Tourists, vendors, the smell of fish and fresh flowers. Aaron watched from a coffee shop across the street, earpiece in, eyes on Lindstrom, who stood near the fish market scanning the crowd. Any sign? Torres asked through the comm. Nothing yet. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then a man appeared. Late 50s, gray hair, expensive jacket. Walked straight to Lindstrom. That's him, Aaron said. Cross and Lindstrom talked. The wire picked up fragments. Told you this would blow over. FBI came to the hospital. Just need to stay calm. Then Cross reached into his pocket. Gun! Someone shouted. The crowd scattered. Officers moved in. Cross grabbed Lindstrom, pulled her in front of him as a shield. Back off, he yelled. Back off, or she dies. Aaron was already moving, pushed through the panicking crowd, got within 20 feet. Nathan, let her go. He swung toward her. You, of course it's you. This is over. There's nowhere to run. I'm not running. I'm making a point. He pressed the gun against Lindstrom's head. She whimpered. You think you've won? You think shutting down a few nurses changes anything? The work continues. It always continues. No one's listening to you anymore. They will. When I show them what's possible, when I prove that progress requires sacrifice. You're just killing people and calling it research. I'm pushing medicine forward. I'm doing what cowards like you are too afraid to do. Aaron took another step closer. Then why are you hiding behind a hostage? His jaw tightened. Stay back. You want to prove something? Let her go. Face me. You're not worth my time. I'm the one who found you. I'm the one who shut down your network. I'm the one who made sure the entire world knows what you really are. She took another step. So yeah, I'm worth your time. Cross's hand wavered, just slightly. That's when Torres moved, fast, professional, grabbed Cross's wrist, twisted. The gun fired, loud crack, but the shot went wide. Cross went down. Hard. Officers swarmed, had him in cuffs within seconds. Lindstrom collapsed. Aaron caught her, held her while she shook. It's over, Aaron said quietly. It's over. Cross was screaming, thrashing. You don't understand. None of you understand. I was trying to save lives. Torres hauled him up. Save it for the jury. They took him away. Aaron sat on a bench near the fish market, watching the crowd slowly return to normal. Torres came over. Hell of a thing. Yeah. Lindstrom's cooperating, giving us everything she knows, names, locations, data. How many more? Hard to say, but we'll find them. Aaron nodded, felt the exhaustion settle deep. Her phone rang. Frost. I heard. Nice work. Thanks. Cross is already lawyering up, but with the evidence we have, he's done. Life sentence, no question. Good. There's something else. The Surgeon General wants to present you with a commendation. Public ceremony. Recognition for everything you've done. Aaron closed her eyes. I don't want a ceremony. I know, but you're getting one anyway. Next month. Washington, D.C. Be there. And if I say no, then I'll drag you there myself. The line went dead. Aaron sat on the bench for a long time, watching people move through the market, buying fish, taking photos, living their lives completely unaware that a man who'd killed hundreds had just been arrested 50 feet away. Santos called that night. Saw the news, you okay? Define okay. Still breathing, still standing. That's a start? Barely. Come home. Take a break. The world can survive without you for a minute. Can it? It'll have to. She flew back to Alaska the next day. Spent a week at the Veterans Center. Didn't talk about Cross or the network or any of it. Just showed up, listened, helped where she could. Tim called from Coldstone. Heard you caught the guy. FBI caught him. I just found him. Stop being modest. Everyone's talking about it. You're a hero. I'm tired. Heroes usually are. The commendation ceremony was scheduled for mid-June. Erin tried to get out of it. Frost wouldn't budge. You don't get to hide from this. What you did matters. People need to see that. I didn't do it for recognition. I know. That's exactly why you deserve it. Erin flew to D.C. the day before. Frost met her at the hotel. Speech is written. You just need to show up and read it. I'm not reading a speech. Then wing it. But you're speaking. Non-negotiable. The ceremony was held at the Department of Defense headquarters. Packed room, cameras. More stars and ribbons than Erin had seen outside a combat zone. Surgeon General Drummond spoke first, detailed Erin's work. The lives saved, the protocols changed, the network dismantled. Then Erin was called to the podium. She stood there, looking at the crowd. All these people who'd come to watch her receive an award for doing what should have been done all along. I'm not good at speeches, she started. I'm better at finding problems and fixing them. So I'll keep this short. She paused, gathered her thoughts. A year ago, I was a logistics nurse at a hospital that didn't respect my experience. I watched people die because the system ignored what I knew, and I had a choice. Stay quiet and keep my job, or speak up and risk everything. The room was silent. I spoke up, and it cost me. It cost me sleep, relationships, peace of mind. But it also saved lives, changed protocols, built something that'll keep working long after I'm gone. She looked at Drummond, at Frost, at the faces in the crowd. The people who died because of Nathan Cross and his network, they deserved better. They deserved a system that protected them instead of experimenting on them. And the only way we build that system is by refusing to stay quiet when we see problems. Even when it's hard, even when it costs us. She stepped back from the microphone. That's all I've got. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, people wanted photos. Handshakes. Erin endured it, smiled when she was supposed to, said thank you until the words lost meaning. Then she saw him. General Augustine Cade, standing near the back, waiting. She excused herself, walked over. Sir, Ms. Sadler, congratulations. Thank you. I wanted to tell you something. The work you've done, it's changed how we approach trauma care across the entire military medical system. Protocols you developed are now standard. Training you designed is mandatory. That's good. It's more than good. It's revolutionary. He smiled. You saved my life, but you've saved hundreds more by making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. Erin felt something crack in her chest. I just did my job. No. You did what no one else was willing to do, and that makes all the difference. He shook her hand, walked away. Erin stood in the emptying room feeling the weight of everything settle. She'd done it, found the network, stopped Cross, changed the system. But at what cost? Her phone buzzed, text from Santos. Group tonight if you're back. We missed you. She smiled, typed back. I'll be there. Then another message came through. Unknown number. She almost deleted it. But something made her open it. Ms. Sadler. My name is Dr. Rebecca Holt. I'm the chief medical officer at a hospital in Boston. We've just had our third unexplained death in 2 months. The state board is investigating, but they're not finding anything. I've read about your work, about what you've uncovered. I need your help, please. Erin stared at the message, thought about saying no, about walking away, about letting someone else handle it. But she couldn't, because somewhere in Boston, people were dying, and nobody knew why. She forwarded the message to Frost, added one line. When do I start? The reply came instantly. How soon can you get there? Erin looked around the empty ceremony room, at the award sitting on the podium, at the future she'd just been handed. Then she picked up her phone and booked a flight to Boston. Because this was who she was now. The person who looked when everyone else looked away. The person who asked questions no one wanted to answer. The person who refused to let people die in silence. She grabbed her jacket, headed for the door, and as she stepped into the DC night, her phone rang one more time. Private number. Not unknown. Private. She answered. Silence. Then breathing. Ms. Sadler. A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Cold. Nathan Cross was a fool, sloppy, arrogant. He deserved to get caught. Aaron stopped walking. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you, studying your methods, learning from his mistakes. A pause. You're very good at finding patterns, at connecting dots, but you're looking in the wrong places. What are you talking about? The network you shut down? It was amateur hour. A bunch of nurses playing scientist. But there are others, professionals, people with real resources, real training, and we've been operating for much longer than Cross ever did. Aaron's heart hammered. You're lying. Am I? Check the Boston cases, look at the medications, the timing, the patient profiles. Then ask yourself, what are the odds of 3 identical presentations in 2 months unless someone's making it happen? Why are you telling me this? Because you're going to find us eventually. Better that you know what you're walking into. The voice dropped. Cross killed hundreds over 5 years. We've been working for 15. Do the math. The line went dead. Erin stood on the sidewalk, phone pressed to her ear, feeling the ground shift beneath her feet. She'd thought it was over. She'd thought they'd won. But somewhere out there, someone was still killing, still experimenting, still waiting, and they knew she was coming. Erin called Frost back before she'd even left the building. Did you hear that call? What call? Someone just contacted me, said the Boston cases aren't accidents, said there's another network, bigger than Cross, operating for 15 years. Silence on the other end. Then, are you sure it wasn't a crank? She knew details, knew I was going to Boston, knew about the pattern before I did. We need to trace it. She called from a private number, probably routed through a dozen proxies. By the time we trace it, she'll be gone. Frost swore. What do you want to do? Go to Boston, look at those cases, see if she's telling the truth. And if she is, then we burn it all down. The flight to Boston left at midnight. Erin didn't sleep. Spent the entire 5 hours reviewing everything Dr. Rebecca Holt had sent. 3 deaths, 2 months. All trauma patients admitted for routine injuries who'd declined rapidly without clear cause. First victim, Thomas Rieger, 41, fell off a ladder. Broken ankle, minor concussion. Died 4 days later from sudden cardiac arrest. Second, Elena Vargas, 35. Car accident. Fractured ribs. Pulmonary contusion. Crashed on day 3. Massive stroke. Dead before they could intervene. Third, Kevin Marsh, 29. Construction accident. Crushed fingers, facial lacerations. Developed acute respiratory failure on day 2. Didn't survive intubation. Different injuries. Different timelines. But when Erin pulled the medication records, the pattern emerged. All 3 had received the same combination of drugs, pain management protocol that looked standard on the surface. But the timing was wrong. Doses administered at intervals that made no clinical sense unless someone was testing something. She landed at Logan at 05:30. Dr. Holt met her at the hospital, a woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes and the kind of exhaustion that came from months of not knowing what was killing her patients. Thank you for coming. Show me everything. They went straight to Holt's office. Files spread across the desk, lab results, autopsy reports, medication logs. Erin started with the pharmacy records. Who had access to these patients' medication cards? Multiple staff, nurses rotate shifts. We have locum physicians covering nights. Locum. Contract doctors. We've been short-staffed, had to bring in outside help. Erin's stomach tightened. How many? 3 in the last 6 months. I need their names, now. Holt pulled up the HR files. 3 names, 2 men, 1 woman, all with impressive credentials, all with references from hospitals across the country. Erin ran them through the database Frost had built, cross-referenced with hospitals that had reported unexplained deaths in the past 5 years. 2 names came back clean. The third hit every red flag. Dr. Sarah Vickers, trauma specialist, contract physician, had worked at 7 hospitals in 4 years, and at every single one, there had been unexplained deaths within months of her arrival. This one, Erin said, pointing. Where is she now? Holt checked the schedule. On shift. Night coverage in the ICU. Get security. We're going up there now. They took the stairs. Fast. Quiet. Security followed. 2 guards who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. The ICU was dimly lit. Monitors beeped softly. Nurses moved between rooms, checking vitals, adjusting drips. And standing at the medication cart, pulling a syringe from a locked drawer, was Dr. Sarah Vickers. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back, calm expression. She looked up when they entered, smiled. "Dr. Holt, can I help you?" "Step away from the cart." The smile didn't falter. "Excuse me?" "Step away, now." Vickers set the syringe down slowly. "Is there a problem?" Aaron moved closer. "How many hospitals have you worked at in the past 5 years?" "I'm not sure that's relevant." 7. And at every single one, patients died unexpectedly, just like here. Vickers' expression shifted. The pleasant mask slipped, something colder underneath. "That's a serious accusation. It's a fact, and you're done." Security moved in, but Vickers was faster. Grabbed the syringe, lunged toward the nearest patient room. Aaron intercepted, caught her wrist, twisted. The syringe clattered to the floor. Vickers fought, hard, professional. She'd been trained, but so had Aaron. 2 seconds later, Vickers was face down on the floor. Security had her in restraints. "You don't understand," Vickers hissed. "You can't stop this. We're everywhere, in every hospital, every city. You shut down one of us, 3 more take our place. Then I'll shut down all of you." Vickers laughed, actually laughed. "You think you're the hero in this story? You're just a janitor cleaning up messes, but you'll never get ahead of it, because the system is broken and we're the only ones brave enough to fix it." By killing people? By pushing medicine forward, by testing what works and what doesn't. Progress requires sacrifice. Aaron leaned down. "You're not a researcher. You're a serial killer with a medical degree." Vickers' eyes went cold. "And you're a self-righteous hypocrite who thinks saving a general makes you special, but you're nothing. Just another obstacle." Security hauled her away. Holt stood frozen. "How many do you think there are?" "I don't know, but we're going to find out." Aaron called Frost, relayed everything. Within hours, FBI teams were mobilizing, cross-referencing contract physician databases with unexplained death reports, looking for the pattern Aaron had found. They found it. 12 more doctors, all working on contract, all moving between hospitals, all leaving bodies in their wake. The operation went nationwide, simultaneous arrests, evidence seized, and at the center of it all, a single organization, Advanced Medical Research Group, AMRG. On paper, it was a legitimate consulting firm, helped hospitals optimize protocols, provided contract staff during shortages. But underneath, it was a front, a network of physicians conducting unauthorized human experiments under the guise of routine care. The founder's name was on every document: Dr. Margaret Ashford, former surgeon, former researcher, stripped of her licenses 10 years ago for ethical violations. She'd rebuilt herself as a consultant, recruited like-minded physicians, and created a system that let them test experimental treatments on unsuspecting patients across the country. The death toll was staggering. Preliminary estimates put it over 800, 15 years of unchecked experimentation. Aaron sat in the FBI field office in Boston, watching the arrests play out on monitors across the room. Doctors in handcuffs, offices raided, files seized. Reeves appeared beside her. "We got Ashford. She was in London. British authorities picked her up an hour ago. She's being extradited." "How long until she's here?" 3 days, maybe 4. "I want to be there when she arrives." "Why?" "Because I need to look her in the eye and ask her why." Ashford landed at Dulles on a Thursday morning. Aaron was waiting, watched as federal marshals escorted her off the plane in handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit. She was smaller than Aaron expected. Late 60s, gray hair, unremarkable, the kind of person you'd pass on the street and never notice. They made eye contact, just for a second. Ashford smiled. The interrogation happened 2 days later. Aaron sat in the observation room with Frost and Reeves, watching through one-way glass as prosecutors laid out the evidence. 800 deaths, 15 years, multiple states, all connected to AMRG. Ashford sat calmly, answered questions with clinical precision, showed no remorse. These were research subjects, she said. Consented or not, they contributed to medical knowledge. That has value. They were people, the prosecutor shot back, with families, lives, futures you took from them. All progress requires cost. Medicine advances through trial and error. I simply expedited the process. You murdered 800 people. I advanced trauma care by decades. The protocols we developed are being used right now in hospitals across the world, saving lives. My work matters. Erin couldn't take it anymore, walked out of the observation room, headed for the exit. Frost caught up. Where are you going? I can't listen to this. She's a monster and she doesn't even see it. She's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. Isn't that enough? No, because 800 people are still dead and nothing changes that. Frost grabbed her arm. You're right. Nothing changes that, but you stopped it. You found the pattern. You shut her down. You saved the people she would have killed next. That doesn't feel like enough. It never does, but it's what we've got. Erin pulled free, kept walking. She went back to Alaska that night, didn't tell anyone she was coming, just showed up at the Veterans Center at 2200 and found Santos locking up. You look like hell. Feel worse. Coffee's still hot. Come on. They sat in his office. He didn't ask questions, just poured coffee and waited. I found them, Erin said finally. The network. 800 dead, 15 years. And the woman running it thinks she was doing something noble. People are good at justifying terrible things. I keep thinking about all the people we didn't save, all the victims we found too late. You can't save everyone. I know, but it doesn't help. Santos leaned forward. You want to know what I think? I think you're carrying weight that doesn't belong to you. Those 800 people, they didn't die because you weren't there. They died because someone else chose to kill them. That's not on you. Then why does it feel like it is? Because you care. Because you see the problem and you can't look away. But caring doesn't mean you have to carry it alone. Erin stared into her coffee. I don't know how to let it go. Then don't. Use it. Turn it into something that makes sure this never happens again. She looked up. Like what? Like building something permanent, something that outlasts you, so when you're gone, the work continues. The idea took root. Erin spent the next month drafting a proposal, a national patient safety task force, embedded specialists at major trauma centers, real-time monitoring of unexplained deaths, protocols that made it impossible for networks like Ashford's to operate undetected. She presented it to Surgeon General Drummond in late July. Drummond read through it, set it down. This is ambitious. It needs to be. You're talking about a complete overhaul of how we handle patient safety oversight. That's going to face resistance. Good. Let them resist. But people are dying because the system is broken. We can fix it, or we can keep pretending everything's fine. Drummond smiled. You don't pull punches, do you? Not anymore. All right, I'll take this to the Secretary of Defense, but I'm going to need you to lead it. Erin hesitated. I'm not an administrator. No, you're the person who found what everyone else missed, and that's exactly who needs to be in charge. The task force launched in September. Erin assembled her team, Tim from Coldstone, Maria from Fairbanks, Derek Walsh, 24 others, nurses, medics, physicians who'd seen the gaps and wanted to fix them. They embedded at hospitals nationwide, monitored outcomes, flagged anomalies, and most importantly, they listened to the people on the ground, the nurses who saw problems but were afraid to speak, the techs who noticed patterns but thought no one would care. Within 6 months, they'd identified and shut down 3 more rogue networks, smaller than Ashford's, but still deadly. By the end of the first year, unexplained death rates at participating hospitals had dropped by 40%. The work was exhausting, but it mattered. Erin stood in a conference room in D.C. looking at data from their first annual report. Numbers that represented lives saved, protocols changed, systems fixed. Frost appeared in the doorway. You did it. We did it. Don't be modest. This was your vision. Erin looked at the charts. It's still not enough. There are hospitals we haven't reached, networks we haven't found. Then we keep going. But tonight, you celebrate. Because what you've built here is going to save thousands of lives. That night, the team gathered at a restaurant near the Capitol. Toasts were made, stories told, For the first time in months, Erin let herself relax. Tim raised his glass. To Erin, who taught us that speaking up isn't just brave, it's necessary. To Erin, the table echoed. She smiled, felt something warm unfold in her chest. Later, walking back to her hotel, her phone rang. General Cade. Congratulations on the task force report. Impressive work. Thank you, sir. I'm calling because there's something I wanted to tell you. The operating room at Coldstone, the one where you saved my life, they've officially renamed it. It's now the Sadler Trauma Suite. Erin stopped walking. What? The hospital board voted unanimously. They wanted to honor what you did, not just for me, but for everyone who came after. She couldn't speak. You changed that place, Erin. Changed how they think about experience, about listening, about what really matters. He paused. And you changed me. I'm alive because you refused to stay quiet. I don't forget that. I was just doing my job. No, you were doing what no one else had the courage to do, and that makes all the difference. The call ended. Erin stood on the sidewalk, looking up at the night sky, feeling the weight of everything shift. She'd started as a logistics nurse nobody respected, been dismissed, ignored, treated like her experience didn't matter. And now her name was on a trauma suite. Her protocols were saving lives across the country. Her work had exposed and destroyed networks that had killed hundreds. But more than that, she'd proven something. That the quiet voices matter. That experience counts. That the person everyone overlooks might be the one who sees what everyone else misses. Her phone buzzed. Text from Santos. Group tomorrow night. You coming? She typed back. Wouldn't miss it, because that's where she belonged. Not in ceremonies or on podiums, but in rooms full of people who understood what it meant to carry weight, to see problems no one else saw, to keep going when everything said to quit. The following week, Erin flew back to Coldstone, walked through the doors for the first time in over a year. Gail was still at the nurses' station, older, grayer, but her smile was the same. Heard you were coming. Wanted to see the fancy new nameplate? Something like that. They walked to the trauma suite together. The doors were different, updated. A bronze plaque mounted beside them. Sadler Trauma Suite. In recognition of Erin Sadler, whose courage and expertise exemplify the highest standards of patient care, Erin stared at it, felt her throat tighten. You earned it, Gail said quietly. I don't know about that. I do. You changed this place, made us better, made us listen. Inside the suite, a trauma team was running a simulation. Young residents, focused, moving with the kind of precision that came from good training. One of them looked up, saw Erin through the window, nudged the others. They stopped, stared. Then one by one, they nodded, respectful, acknowledging. And Erin realized something. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't dismissed. She was the standard, the person they'd measure themselves against, the voice they'd listen for, the example they'd follow. Later, sitting in the break room with coffee that still tasted terrible, Tim found her. You sticking around? Just for the day. Got a flight back to D.C. tonight. Building an empire out there, huh? Building something. Not sure it's an empire. Tim sat down. You know what Holloway said to me right before he died? Erin looked up. He said you were the best hire he never made, that if he'd been smart enough to actually use you, instead of just tolerating you, he'd have been a better doctor. He changed at the end because you showed him how. That's what you do. You show people what they're missing, what they could be. Erin smiled. When did you get philosophical? When I started working with a woman who changed the whole damn system. She flew back to D.C. that night, landed to an email from Drummond. Need you at the Pentagon tomorrow, 900, big meeting, wear something respectable. Erin showed up in clean scrubs and her service jacket. Close enough? The conference room was packed. DoD officials, VA representatives, hospital administrators from across the country. Drummond stood at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming. We're here to discuss the expansion of the National Patient Safety Task Force. Preliminary results have been extraordinary, and we're ready to take this nationwide. She pulled up a slide. Maps, data, numbers. Ms. Sadler's team has demonstrated that embedded oversight works, that listening to frontline staff catches problems traditional audits miss, and that investing in people with field experience saves lives. Another slide. Budget projections, staffing requirements. We're proposing a 5-year initiative, full funding, support from DoD, VA, and HHS. The goal is to embed specialists at every Level 1 and Level 2 trauma center in the country. Drummond looked at Aaron. And we want Ms. Sadler to direct it. The room went quiet. Aaron stood. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not the person to run this. Drummond frowned. Why not? Because the whole point is that one person can't do it all. This needs to be decentralized. Local teams with real authority, people who know their hospitals, their communities, who can spot problems before they become crises. Then what do you propose? Make me an advisor. Let me train the people who'll lead those teams, but put the power in their hands, not mine. Drummond studied her. You're turning down a promotion. I'm turning down a desk job. I'm better in the field. A ripple of laughter went through the room. All right, Drummond said. We'll structure it your way, but you're still on the hook for building the training program. Deal. The meeting broke. Officials filed out. Aaron stayed behind looking at the maps on the screen. Frost appeared beside her. You just turned down a 6-figure salary and a corner office. I know. Why? Because this isn't about me. It never was. It's about building something that works without me, something that keeps going long after I'm gone. Frost smiled. You've changed. Yeah, I guess I have. Over the next year, Aaron built the training program, recruited specialists from across the country, taught them to look for patterns, to question protocols, to listen to the quiet voices. She embedded with teams in Texas, Oregon, North Carolina, helped them find problems, fix systems, save lives. And slowly, the work spread. Hospitals that had resisted started asking for help. Administrators who'd been defensive started listening. The culture shifted. 2 years after Ashford's arrest, Aaron stood in front of a packed auditorium at Johns Hopkins. Medical students, residents, attendings, all there to hear her speak. I'm not a doctor, she started. I'm a former combat medic who got tired of watching people die because the system ignored what I knew. She told them about Coldstone, about General Cade, about the moment she'd decided to speak up instead of staying quiet. The biggest lie we tell ourselves in medicine is that credentials matter more than experience, that degrees trump instinct, that the person with the most letters after their name automatically knows best. She paused. Let it sink in. But the truth is, some of the best medical insights come from people who don't fit the traditional mold. The nurse who's seen the same complication 50 times, the medic who learned to improvise under fire, the tech who notices patterns everyone else dismisses. She looked out at the crowd. Your job, all of you, is to listen to those voices, to make space for people who see things differently. Because the next time someone saves your patient, it might be the person you least expect. The applause was deafening. Afterwards, students lined up to ask questions, to share their own stories of being dismissed, of seeing problems no one else saw. One young woman, a first-year resident, waited until the end. I wanted to thank you. I'm prior military, paramedic before med school, and I've spent 2 years being told my experience doesn't count, that I need to forget what I learned in the field and do things the right way. But listening to you, it reminded me that what I know matters. Aaron smiled. It does. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I won't. That night, flying back to Alaska, Aaron thought about that resident, about all the people out there who were still fighting to be heard, still trying to prove their experience mattered. She pulled out her laptop, started drafting an email to Drummond. We need to expand the recruitment criteria. Stop requiring traditional credentials. Start prioritizing field experience. The people we're missing are the ones who'll make the biggest difference. The reply came within an hour. Do it. Send me a proposal by Monday. Aaron smiled, kept writing. 3 years after the task force launched, the results were undeniable. Unexplained death rates had dropped by 62% at participating hospitals. Medication errors were down 70%. Patient safety incidents had decreased across every measured category. But more importantly, the culture had changed. Nurses felt empowered to speak up. Techs questioned protocols. Experience was valued alongside education. The system was finally listening. Erin stood in the Sadler Trauma Suite, Barmaid Suite at Coldstone, watching a team run a code. The patient, a young man with multiple stab wounds, was crashing. "Pressure's dropping. Push fluids. He's not responding." One of the nurses stepped forward. "Check for attention pneumo, left side. I saw his trachea shift." The attending didn't hesitate. "Needle decompression, now." They did. Air hissed out. The patient's pressure stabilized. "Good catch," the attending said. "What made you think of that?" "I worked as an EMT before nursing school. Saw it a dozen times." The attending nodded. "Then we're lucky to have you." Erin watched through the window, felt something settle in her chest. This was it. This was the change she'd fought for. A system where experience mattered, where people listened, where the quiet voices got heard. She walked out of the hospital into the Alaska cold. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Her phone rang. Santos. "You coming to group?" "Yeah, on my way." "Good. There's someone I want you to meet, former Navy corpsman, having a hard time adjusting. Could use someone who understands." "I'll be there in 20, because that's who she was now. Not the hero, not the savior, just someone who'd been through it, who understood what it meant to fight to be heard, to carry weight nobody else saw. Someone who'd learned that the most powerful thing you can do isn't to save everyone yourself. It's to build a system that keeps saving people long after you're gone. Erin drove through the darkening streets, past the hospital where she'd started, past the places that had dismissed her, past all the moments that had led here, and she realized something. She wasn't bitter, wasn't angry, wasn't carrying the weight of every person she couldn't save. She was just tired and proud and ready for whatever came next. Because the work would continue. The problems would keep coming. The system would need fixing again and again. But she wouldn't face it alone. She had a team, a network, a community of people who saw what she saw, who cared like she cared, who refused to stay quiet when it mattered. And together they were changing everything. The Veterans Center came into view, lights on, people inside. Erin parked, grabbed her coffee, walked toward the door, and as she stepped inside, greeted by familiar faces and the smell of bad coffee and the sound of people who understood, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because the fight was over, but because she'd finally learned how to carry it. One day at a time, one person at a time, one voice at a time, until the quiet ones were heard, until the overlooked were seen, until the system finally worked the way it was supposed to. For everyone.